In the hallowed halls of St. Augustine's, where the steady hum of life-sustaining machinery whispered secrets of hope and despair, a miracle was about to unfold. The room, sterile and cold, held a silent witness to the drama of life and death. There, amidst the clinical precision and the relentless beeping of monitors, lay Olivia Gian, a woman whose wealth once commanded headlines, now reduced to a whisper of existence. Her dark hair, a striking contrast against the stark white sheets, had not stirred for 6 long months, her form as still as the grave. Der Aiden Lee, with eyes shadowed by too many sleepless nights, stood by her side, his white coat hanging loosely, a testament to his relentless vigil. His fingers trembled slightly as they hovered over the bandages that had become a second skin to Olivian. Yellowed and stiff, a silent scream of neglect. The air was thick with tension, the kind that precedes a storm. "Dr. Lee, stop!" Margaret, the head nurse, her voice slicing through the quiet like a scalpel. "There's a protocol to follow." Aiden's gaze, ablaze with a defiant fire, met hers. "Protocol?" he echoed, his voice a quiet storm. "She's been suffocating under these bandages for 6 months. I'm not here for protocol. I'm here to save her." Margaret's lips formed a tight line, her concern palpable. "She's Olivia John, a public figure, a billionaire. One mistake, and her family—" "Her family isn't here," Aiden interrupted, his tone sharp, cutting through the excuses. "But I am, and I won't let this continue." With a decisive motion, he grabbed the sterile scissors, slicing through the oppressive fabric that had held Olivia captive. As the bandages fell away, revealing faint red indentations on her pale skin, Aiden's breath caught in his throat. She had been suffocating, not just under bandages, but under the weight of hospital bureaucracy. Margaret's sharp exhale broke the silence. "You're risking your career." "Then let them fire me," Aiden muttered, his resolve as clear as the morning light breaking through the window. With deft and practiced hands, Aiden skillfully replaced the old bandages with new ones, ensuring they were secure yet gentle, not too tight around her fragile skin. His fingers brushed hers for a fleeting moment, a brief spark of warmth against the cold stillness. The room fell into a profound silence, the air heavy with unspoken words and emotions. Margaret, her eyes fixed on his every move, felt her objections dissipate like mist in the morning sun. Aiden, stepping back, wiped his hands on his coat, his gaze locked on Olivia's serene face. Suddenly, the heart monitor hiccuped. A single, elongated beep stretched into another, faster, stronger. Aiden's breath caught in his throat. Margaret gasped, her clipboard tumbling to the floor. The numbers on the monitor climbed, 60, 65, 70. Aiden leaned in closer, his pulse racing, watching for any sign. There, a faint hitch in Olivia's chest, her lips parting slightly. It was a sign, a flicker of life. "What the hell?" Aiden whispered, his voice barely audible, as for the first time in 6 long months, Olivia Nyan was showing signs of change. Aiden had just broken the silence that had imprisoned her. The night settled in, the AQ glowing a dim blue, machines humming like restless spirits. Aiden, now in the corner, hunched over his tablet, shadows carving lines of fatigue into his face. Olivia's heart monitor had calmed after that startling spike, but the moment lingered in his mind, her pulse surging as if she had sensed his touch. It didn't add up. He swiped through her medical file, 6 months of scans, notes, and observations. Olivia Guyen, 32, had crashed her Mercedes on a rainy highway. No witnesses, just a wreck in a coma. CT scans revealed a mild concussion, minor bruising, no significant damage. Yet she remained silent, locked in a persistent vegetative state for reasons unclear. "Unclear isn't enough," Aiden muttered, rubbing his eyes. He replayed the moment he'd changed her bandages, eased her breathing. Had that triggered it? No, something deeper gnawed at him, suspicion tightening his chest. What if her coma wasn't natural? What if someone wanted her like this? In the sterile quiet of the room, Aiden paced back and forth, his sneakers squeaking against the polished floor, each step echoing the turmoil within. Olivia lay there, motionless, her face both sharp and serene beneath the steady hiss of the ventilator. She was a tech titan, a conqueror of Wall Street and Silicon Valley, yet now she seemed so vulnerable. Who could have possibly wanted her silenced? The thought hit him like a thunderbolt. Could it be drugs, subtle and sinister, keeping her in this twilight state? Hospitals, Often arenas for the power plays of the rich might just be hiding such dark secrets. Aiden's heart raced. If this was true, he couldn't trust anyone here. He decided to investigate alone. Slipping into the shadowy hallway, he made his way to the supply room. The door groaned as it opened, revealing shelves that glimmered under the dim light, stocked with vials of morphine and saline. Nothing out of the ordinary at first glance. But then, behind a pile of gauze, he spotted it. An unmarked vial, half filled with a clear liquid, devoid of any label. His breath caught in his throat. This was not standard issue. With his heart pounding like a drum, he pocketed the vial and returned to his office. He dialed Jake, his friend and a lab tech, the clock striking 2 a.m. "Aiden, it's the middle of the night." Jake's voice was heavy with sleep. "Analyze this for me," Aiden whispered, urgency lacing his words. "Off the books, tomorrow." Jake agreed, albeit with a grumble. The next morning, in a dimly lit coffee shop, Aiden handed over the mysterious vial. Jake swirled it, his brows knitting together. "No label. Where did you get this?" he asked, but Aiden's only reply was, "Just test it fast." 2 days later, Jake called. Sitting in the hospital cafeteria, Aiden's coffee went cold as he listened. "It's a low-dose anesthetic," Jake said. "Keep someone under without knocking them out completely." "What's going on, Aiden?" Aiden's stomach plummeted. "Thanks, Jake," he managed before hanging up, his mind spinning. A sedative, perfect for quiet sabotage. Someone, perhaps even from her own family, had done this. He needed more proof, but this was a start. That night, back in the ICU, bathed in the eerie blue glow, Olivia lay unchanged, her face hauntingly blank. Aiden sat close, the weight of the vial heavy in his pocket. Leaning in, he whispered, his voice rough with resolve, "I'll uncover the truth, whether you can hear me or not." He didn't know who or why, but he was determined to fight for her, to unravel the mystery that had ensnared her in this silent battle. The incessant beeping of the heart monitor echoed through the room, a stark reminder of the battle being fought within its walls. The storm outside raged on, each raindrop striking the hospital windows with the ferocity of a warrior's cry, overwhelming the gentle hum of the ICU. Lightning sliced through the room, casting fleeting shadows over Aiden, who sat with a clipboard, his eyes heavy from the 16-hour shift. In the midst of Manhattan's tempestuous night, St. Augustine's Hospital was a beacon of chaos. Yet, inside this sanctuary, Olivia Guion lay as still as the night itself, her chart open, revealing notes and numbers that told her story in cold, clinical terms. Her face was pale, a stark contrast to the darkness of her hair that cascaded over the pillow. The ventilator beside her hissed, a mechanical breath for lungs silent for 6 long months. Aiden rose, his body aching from exhaustion, and reached for his stethoscope. The routine vitals check was a ritual, a silent prayer for change. He approached Olivia, the storm outside a distant roar. Pressing the cold metal to her chest, he listened. Pulse 62, oxygen level steady, all normal. He adjusted her blanket, a small act of care in the face of relentless technology. Then, as if the storm had willed it, lightning illuminated her face and her eyelids fluttered. Aiden's breath caught in his throat. Was it just his imagination? He leaned in, heart pounding, waiting for a sign. Nothing. "Wishful thinking," he murmured, straightening up. But as he did, her eyes opened, dark and confused, yet undeniably alive. The stethoscope clattered to the floor, the sound drowned by the storm's fury. "Olivia," he whispered, his voice trembling. Her gaze found his, wide and searching, her hands trembling as he flicked a penlight across her pupils, watching them constrict. A faint twitch at her knee confirmed her awareness, her return from the abyss of silence. His heart raced, a tumult of relief and disbelief. "This is a miracle," he half laughed, his mind racing through the possibilities. Had the sedatives worn off? Or was it something more? Her eyes, intense with confusion and fear, locked onto his, a silent plea for understanding. She couldn't speak, the tube in her throat a cruel barrier to her voice, yet her look conveyed volumes. What if someone had drugged her? What if they were watching, waiting? The implications sent a chill down his spine, stirring the air with the weight of unspoken questions. As Aiden sat beside Margaret, his protective resolve hardened. He had vowed to unearth the truth, to shield her from further harm. You're safe, he assured, his voice a soothing whisper. His gaze met hers, eyes level. I'm here. I'm Dr. Lee. Do you understand? One blink. For yes. A faint smile played on his lips as she blinked once. Don't try to move too much. You have been out for quite some time, he added, watching her blink slowly, her eyes locked on his with an unwavering steadiness. He gently moistened her lips with a swab, her gaze softening with gratitude. I've been here for you, he murmured, adjusting her pillows with a firm yet tender touch. I've got stories to share. His voice became a lifeline, weaving tales of storm-soaked streets, a coffee spill, and a wandering dog. Simple, yet grounding. Her eyes never left his face as he spoke, teaching her signals. One blink for yes, two for no. Pain? Two blinks. Tired? One blink. A fragile rhythm emerged between them, a silent conversation amidst the storm of his words. Aiden shared snippets of his life, his med school days, his own stubborn nature, and a botched suture that had once made him question everything. Her lips twitched, a hint of a smile that stopped him mid-sentence. She understood, and in that moment, he felt an unspoken bond strengthening. Resting his fingers on hers, he said, You're tough. We'll get through this. Her fingers curled weakly around his, a gesture of frail but fierce trust. His breath hitched, throat tight with emotion. The rain outside drummed against the window, the world shifting subtly around them. As he sat, her hand in his, the hospital corridors buzzed with the chaos of midday. Trays clattering, phones ringing, voices overlapping in a symphony of urgency. But Aiden, his focus razor sharp, barely noticed. With a manila folder tucked under his arm, he strode towards the admin wing. The past week had been a blur, a series of late nights and secretive searches, piecing together the puzzle of Olivia's coma. Her awakening had ignited a fire within him, and now every clue led to one name, Daniel Nguyen. Olivia's younger brother, a slick, polished figure in his late 20s, all tailored suits and calculated smiles, had stepped into the spotlight after her fall. As the sun rose, casting a soft glow over the horizon, Aiden felt a surge of determination. His heart pounded like a war drum as he maneuvered through the labyrinthine corridors of Olivia's tech empire, a place she once managed with a grace that now seemed almost ethereal. The deeper he delved, the more sinister the secrets he unearthed. Daniel had been haunting the hospital halls, his visits marked by strange hours in solitude. But it was the discovery of the vial, the very essence of betrayal, that painted a grim picture. Daniel, with his motive as clear as day, his ambition as vast as the empire he sought to claim, had the means to sideline his sister. That morning, a breakthrough. Aiden, with charm as his ally, persuaded a security guard to reveal the CCTV archives. The footage, though grainy, was damning. There, in the shadowy embrace of a hospital corridor, Daniel handed a small vial to Jenny, the timid nurse on Olivia's shift. Her eyes wide with fear, she accepted it. Aiden's heart raced. He could almost hear the silent agreement as Daniel's hand clapped reassuringly on her shoulder. Hours later, in the break room, Jenny's confession tumbled out in hushed, broken tones. I didn't want to, she whispered, her gaze flitting around like a trapped bird. He said it was just to help her rest, that she'd wake up soon. Then he gave me $5,000 to keep silent. Her voice broke, a tear tracing a path down her cheek. I didn't know it would go on this long. This confession, this undeniable proof, was the key. Aiden had printed the video stills, time-stamped and crystal clear, and now they burned against his side a folder of truth. Daniel wasn't merely negligent. He was a predator, drugging his own sister to usurp her life's work. Fists clenched with righteous anger, Aiden stormed into the executive lounge. The room hushed as he entered, all eyes on him. Daniel, at the head of the polished table, his suit immaculate, a coffee cup in hand, looked up. His smirk wavered as the gravity of the moment sank in. Today, this charade ended. In that fleeting moment, as Aiden stormed towards him like a tempest, Dr. Lee Daniel set his cup down with a slow, deliberate drawl, his eyes narrowing. To what do I owe the interruption? His voice, smooth yet edged with a hint of menace, sliced through the sudden silence. Aiden, his face flushed with rage, slammed a folder onto the table, papers spilling out like secrets from a Pandora's box. There they were, Stills of the footage. Jenny's transcribed confession. This, he hissed, his voice a low, furious whisper. You've been poisoning her, Daniel, keeping her in that coma so you could play king. The room erupted into a cacophony of murmurs, the air thick with tension as suits shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Daniel's eyes narrowed further, but his smile was sharp as a blade. That's a bold accusation, Der Gutproof. Or are you merely fishing for attention? His tone was mocking, challenging. Aiden's finger jabbed at the photos, each tap a declaration of war. Security footage of you handing off the vial. And your nurse? She talked. $5,000 to dope Olivia up. Keep her quiet. Sound familiar? Daniel leaned back, crossing his arms, an image of unruffled composure. Creative storytelling, but you're out of your depth. One call to the board, and your career's ash. You're nothing here. Aiden stepped on closer, his voice a growl, primal and fierce. Try it. I've got copies of everything, tapes, files, witnesses. You're done. I'll protect her no matter what you throw at me. Daniel's smirk vanished as if wiped off by an invisible hand, his face hardening into a mask of cold fury. He rose, towering over Aiden, his voice dropping to a sinister hiss. You're a dead man walking, Lee. She's my sister, my business. You think you can touch me? I already have, Aiden shot back, unflinching, his eyes ablaze with determination. The cops get this next if you don't back off. Your move. A tense silence stretched, the room holding its breath as if waiting for the storm to break. Daniel's jaw twitched, his gaze flicking to the scattered papers, then back to Aiden. Finally, he sneered, grabbing his coat. Enjoy your little crusade, he said, brushing past Aiden. The door slammed with a finality that echoed through the stunned onlookers. Aiden exhaled, the adrenaline still surging through him like a live wire. He gathered the scattered papers, his resolve as clear as the morning light breaking through storm clouds. The confrontation had been a high-stakes game, a risky maneuver where Aiden had played his cards, revealing his strategy and making an enemy in the process. But the risk was justified. Daniel now knew he was exposed, and that knowledge gave Olivia a glimmer of hope, a fighting chance. Aiden's steps quickened as he left the lounge, the folder now not just document, but a weapon in his determined grasp. The storm that had raged days ago had subsided, leaving the world bathed in sunlight as he entered Olivia's room. There she lay, eyes closed, her breathing rhythmic through the ventilator. He drew the chair close, the folder settling on his lap, and leaned forward, his voice a gentle yet unyielding whisper. I won't let them hurt you anymore. His hand found hers, her fingers motionless, yet he felt her presence, as fragile as a whisper, yet as fierce as a storm, igniting his resolve. Daniel might retaliate, but Aiden was prepared. This was now a war, and he would win it for her. The hospital room, once akin to a sterile prison, now seemed less oppressive, its stark walls softened by the golden hues of the late afternoon sun filtering through the blinds. Olivia's bed was raised, the ventilator replaced by a nasal cannula, gently delivering life-sustaining oxygen to her recovering lungs. She had been awake for a week, her journey back from the brink of oblivion, a slow, painstaking crawl. Aiden stood by her side, clipboard in hand, but his attention was not on the clinical data, it was on her. Her once clouded eyes now sparkled with a tentative clarity, and her voice, though weak and hoarse, was beginning to pierce the quietude. Water, she managed to croak, her throat parched from long silence. Aiden set aside the clipboard, reaching for a cup, guiding the straw to her lips. She sipped, a slight wince crossing her face, then offered a feeble nod of gratitude. He smiled, small but sincere. You're getting stronger, he affirmed, settling into the chair beside her, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead for both their sakes. A few more days and you'll be bossing me around, she murmured, her lips curling into the faintest shadow of a smile. Already am, she managed, each word a struggle, a precious breath. Aiden chuckled, the sound like a balm soothing the tension in the room. She had begun speaking 2 days prior, just fragments at first, single syllables forced out amidst coughs. Now she could weave sentences together, and each word was like a triumph, a beacon of recovery. He had kept her revival hushed, providing the staff with sparse, hopeful updates about her stable condition, all while shielding her from the world's intrusions. Daniel's threat lingered like a dark cloud, but Aiden swept it aside, his focus solely on Olivia. She needed him, not just as her physician, but as something deeper, something vital. With a gentle touch, he drew a small towel across her forehead, her skin cool yet damp from the exertion of awakening. "Tell me," she rasped, her gaze locking onto his with a desperate intensity, "why you?" Aiden hesitated, the towel suspended in midair. "Why me? Why fight for me?" He set the towel aside, leaning forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "Because you're worth it," he said, his voice steady, unwavering. "Someone tried to bury you, Olivia. I couldn't let them win." Her eyes glistened, a raw emotion flickering through them. She turned her head slightly, staring at the ceiling, her breath catching. "No one ever?" she began, then stopped, swallowing hard. "My life, empty. Family, liars. I didn't want to wake." Aiden's heart clenched. He had suspected this much. Her coma was not merely induced by drugs, but was also an escape, a surrender. "What changed?" he asked, his voice a soft whisper. She met his gaze once more, her eyes piercing despite their weakness. "You." The word hung there, heavy and unguarded. Aiden absorbed the weight of it, feeling it settle deep within him. He had been her anchor, pulling her back when she had let go. Now she was reaching for him, and he found he could not look away. Days blurred into nights as he remained by her side, her silent plea echoing in his heart. In the delicate dance of recovery, Aiden was her steadfast guide, his hands firm yet gentle, as they steadied her quivering arms on the parallel bars. Her initial steps were tentative, her legs betraying her with their frailty, buckling from the long months of disuse. Yet each time she faltered, he was there to catch her, his voice a soothing melody of encouragement. "One more, you've got this," he'd urge, and she would steel herself, sweat glistening on her forehead like dew. With every small victory, his face would light up, pride radiating from his weary eyes. As evening shadows crept in, Aiden lingered long after his shift had ended. The nurses, accustomed to his dedication, no longer questioned his presence, leaving the two in the general quiet of the dim room. He'd often bring a deck of cards or a book, but it was their conversations that truly kept her mind vibrant. He shared stories of his youth in Queens, the scholarship that paved his path through medical school, and the humorous tale of his bike tumbling into a dumpster, his laughter still echoing in the air. She listened, her laughter, once weak, now growing more robust. Gradually, she too began to share, her voice gaining strength. "My father controlled everything," she confessed one night, her words clearer, though still laced with the rawness of recovery. "My mother died young, and Daniel, he was consumed by jealousy, wanting everything for himself. I built the company alone, but no one cared." Aiden leaned in, his hand resting close to hers on the bed, his touch a silent testament. "I care," he said, his voice firm yet soft. "You're not alone anymore." Her eyes softened, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. Embarrassed, she moved to wipe it away, but he gently caught her hand, holding it until the tension eased from her grip. Their talks wove a tapestry of connection, his unwavering hope intertwining with her hidden reserves of strength. Sometimes she'd watch him, her gaze carrying an emotion he couldn't quite decipher, and his heart would race with unspoken anticipation. One evening, as the room was bathed in the soft amber of dusk, the distant hum of the city like a lullaby, Aiden sat cross-legged, recounting a culinary catastrophe from his medical school days. Olivia's laughter, deep and throaty, echoed through the room, and Aiden couldn't help but grin, relishing the sound. She shifted, grimacing slightly as she adjusted her position, and he instinctively moved to assist, fluffing her pillows with a gentle touch. "You're really good at this," she murmured, her voice now a mere whisper, but filled with a newfound steadiness. "At what? Telling bad cooking stories?" he teased, hoping to keep the mood light. "No," she paused, her eyes catching his with an intensity that made the air around them thicken. "At making me feel alive again." Aiden's hands paused on the pillow, the weight of her words settling between them like a tangible force. Her fingers reached out, brushing against his with a deliberate, tentative touch. "You're the reason I wanted to live again," she confessed, her voice breaking under the weight of her emotion. His heart thundered in his chest, a flood of warmth washing over him. He was speechless, rooted to the spot by the raw sincerity of her declaration. She had bared her soul, and the pull, the ache he had been ignoring for weeks, surged forward. He didn't pull away. Instead, he gently slid his hand over hers, their fingers intertwining, his thumb caressing her knuckles. "Olivia, he began, but the words deserted him. She leaned forward, just a breath, and he met her halfway in a tender, quiet surge of emotion. He pulled her into his embrace, mindful of her fragility, yet his hold was firm, protective. She melted into him, her head resting on his shoulder, her breath warm against his neck. He buried his face in her hair, where the scent of hospital soap mingled with her unique essence. They remained like that, enveloped in a silence that spoke volumes, the world outside fading into insignificance, leaving only the rhythm of their hearts. It was no longer about the roles of patient and doctor, protector and protected. It was about them, together, and it was unmistakably love. 3 weeks since her escape from the institution, Olivia was but a ghost of her once vibrant self, her frame thinner, her complexion paler. Yet, in her eyes, a fierce flame flickered, a resolve Aiden had grown to recognize. By her side, he matched her stride, his jaw clenched tight, the manila folder of evidence now a potent legal weapon wielded by their attorney, Rachel Kim. Today, they would dismantle Daniel, piece by piece. The courtroom was a battleground, its air thick with the tension of whispered strategies and polished wood. Olivia, seated at the plaintiff's table, wore a dark suit that spoke of her determination, her gaze unyieldingly fixed on her brother Daniel, who lounged arrogantly in his chair, his smirk a mask of misplaced confidence. His lawyer, a slick fortress of self-assurance, stood beside him. Aiden, taking his place behind Olivia, felt every muscle tense with anticipation. Rachel's voice, sharp and clear, cut through the room as she outlined the charges. Attempted murder, fraud, a sinister plot to usurp Olivia's empire. The security footage rolled, Daniel's shadowy form unmistakable as he passed the vial to Jenny. Then the nurse's confession played, her voice quivering yet resolute. With each piece of evidence, Daniel's smirk wavered, his lawyer frantically objecting. The judge, a formidable woman with hair like silver steel, leaned in, her eyes narrowing in scrutiny. Rachel called Olivia to the stand. With a tap of her cane, Olivia rose, her testimony a raw outpouring of pain. 6 months lost, her brother's betrayal, the drugs that had silenced her. Each word hung in the air, heavy with emotion. Aiden felt his heart swell with pride as she spoke, her strength undeniable. Daniel's lawyer attempted to spin it as stress, a misunderstanding, but the judge was having none of it. The gavel slammed down, signaling a recess until the next day. Daniel's glare, venomous and sharp, shot towards Aiden. Outside, chaos reigned as the press swarmed, but Aiden shielded Olivia, guiding her to a waiting car, all the while feeling the weight of watching eyes, Daniel's eyes, burning into them. That fateful day, victory seemed assured, yet the battle was far from over. As night fell, Rachel's call pierced the silence with news that the prosecution was demanding incarceration. Olivia's smile, a rare and fierce spark, lit up the room as Aiden's hand enveloped hers. "He's finished," she declared with conviction, and he nodded, his belief unwavering. The next morning, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. The verdict sliced through the tension like a knife. Guilty. Daniel's expression contorted in agony as the cuffs clicked around his wrists, his threats swallowed by the rising tide of the courtroom's chatter. Olivia exhaled, her body relaxing into Aiden, the palpable relief washing over her like a soothing wave. However, as they exited the courthouse, the atmosphere transformed, becoming eerily silent, too still. Aiden's instincts, honed by years of vigilance, flared to life. He drew Olivia closer, his eyes scanning the crowd. There, amidst the sea of faces, a figure loomed, a menacing silhouette in a hoodie, charging through the reporters directly at them. "Olivia, down!" Aiden's shout was urgent, his body a shield as he pushed her behind him. The thug's fist arced through the air, but Aiden, fueled by adrenaline, dodged the blow. The attacker lunged again, a flash of metal catching the light. A knife. Aiden launched himself forward, tackling the assailant. Pain erupted as the blade grazed his arm, a burning line etched into his skin. Grunting, he pinned the thug's wrist to the ground, holding fast until security converged, pulling the assailant away. Amidst the chaos, Olivia's scream pierced the air, her hands grasping Aiden as he staggered back, blood seeping through his sleeve. "Aiden!" Her voice broke, tears brimming in her eyes. He managed a strained grin, clutching his wounded arm. "I'm fine, just a scratch." But she wasn't listening, her trembling fingers pressing her scarf against the wound, her face a mask of terror. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, paramedics rushing in, and soon they were whisked away in an ambulance, Olivia steadfast by his side. Hours later, the story exploded onto national television. Olivia, Kane resting against her chair, faced the cameras with a voice that did not waver. "My brother tried to kill me," she stated, her gaze unflinching, recounting how he had drugged her, stolen her company, words heavy with betrayal and the raw, unyielding fight for justice. Today, as I stand here, the skyline of Manhattan stretches out before me like a canvas of endless possibilities, its promise glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse. I am a testament to resilience, a woman who has reclaimed her empire, her name now a bold headline in every newspaper. Yet, my heart remains tethered to a single moment, a turning point that brought me back from the brink. It was not just any day. It was the day I was reinstated, the day public support flooded in like a tidal wave, washing away the shadows of doubt and betrayal. But before that, there was a quieter, more intimate moment that truly defined my resurgence. Dr. Aiden Lee, the man who saved me, lay in a hospital bed at St. Augustine's, his arm bandaged, a testament to his courage. As I entered, the door creaked softly, a whisper in the silent ward. Gone was my usual suit, replaced by a simple sweater, my hair loose, carrying a tray with water, a cloth, and a small first aid kit. "Your turn," I said, my voice a blend of softness and strength as I set down the tray. He raised an eyebrow, a half-smile playing on his lips. "I'm the patient now?" "Exactly," I replied, sitting beside him. With a tender touch, I dipped the cloth in water and gently wiped the sweat from his brow, my fingers echoing the care he had shown me weeks before. "You scared me today," I murmured, my gaze locked with his, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I can't lose you." Aiden caught my hand, pressing it against his cheek. "You won't," he assured, his voice rough with emotion. "I'd take 100 hits for you." In that moment, as I leaned in, resting my forehead against his, the world outside ceased to exist. It was just us in a quiet, unbreakable bond, roles reversed yet forever intertwined. My heart swelled with gratitude and an unspoken promise, a vow that echoed through the silence of the room. Now, 3 months since the trial, every step I take resonates with the strength I've regained. But it's the memory of that day, of Aiden's sacrifice, that fuels my spirit. As I stand by the edge of my penthouse, the city sprawling beneath me, I am not just Olivia Guyan, the CEO. I am a woman reborn, my empire reclaimed, my spirit unbroken, thanks to one man who dared to stand by my side when darkness threatened to engulf me. The news had not been kind lately, and the headlines had taken a turn for the worse. The tabloids were merciless, their stories a relentless barrage of speculation and innuendo. "Millionaire heiress slumming it with Dr. Boyfriend. Is Olivia Guan buying loyalty?" screamed the headlines. Photos of them exiting the hospital or merely grabbing coffee were plastered across every media outlet, each caption dripping with insinuation. She was the titan, he was the nobody, and the world couldn't get enough of this mismatched pair. Aiden, scrolling through his phone that morning, felt each comment slice through him like a knife. She's just using him for the story. He's in over his head. The doubts crept in, a slow poison he couldn't shake. Olivia turned, catching his gaze across the room. "You're quiet tonight," she noted, her voice smooth but probing. Weeks ago, she had ditched the cane, her stride now confident once more, yet her eyes softened as they met his. Setting his beer down, Aiden forced a smile. "Just tired. Long shift." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. She tilted her head, unconvinced, and moved to sit beside him on the couch, her knee brushing his. "Aiden, talk to me," she urged. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "It's nothing, just the noise out there. People saying stuff about us." He met her eyes, hesitating. "They think you're slumming it with me, that I'm some charity case you're propping up." Her brow furrowed, a flash of anger crossing her face. "They're idiots, you know that." "Do I?" The words slipped out sharper than he meant. "Olivia, you're a billionaire genius, the whole world at your feet. I'm just a guy with a stethoscope in a rent-controlled apartment. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't fit." She stared at him, stunned, then leaned closer, her voice firm. "You think I care about that after everything we've been through?" He looked away, his throat tight. I care. I don't want to drag you down. The weight of his words, like heavy stones, pressed down upon his heart as he confessed, you deserve a life unburdened by my complications. Someone who compliments you, not some tabloid spectacle. His insecurity, raw and jagged, clashed with the love that pulsed beneath, causing him to stand and pace, the words tearing free from his lips. Perhaps we should take a step back, let you breathe, he murmured, a suggestion that felt like a surrender. Olivia's eyes, wide with shock, then hardened with resolve. She rose, her hand gripping his arm to halt him in his tracks. No, she declared, her voice slicing through the whirlpool of his spiraling thoughts. You don't get to decide that for me. She pulled him around to face her, her voice now fierce, yet trembling with a plea. Olivia, listen to me, she insisted. I was nothing but a ghost of myself before you. Not just the coma, but long before that, alone, betrayed, with nothing real. You brought me back to life, and now you want to leave because some faceless writers think you're not enough? Her voice shook, a blend of ferocity and desperation. You are everything. Aiden's breath caught, her words sinking into him, yet the shadow of doubt lingered, a stubborn specter. Olivia saw it, her jaw setting with determination. Fine, she said, stepping back. You want proof? Watch this. The next day, she orchestrated a press conference at the HM. Aiden stood backstage, arms crossed, as Olivia faced a sea of microphones in a sleek downtown studio. The room buzzed with reporters and cameras, the gravity of her presence drawing them in. She was dressed in a simple black dress, her aura commanding attention. When she began to speak, the chatter ceased, and a hush fell over the crowd. There's been much talk about my personal life, she started, her voice steady, clear, resonating with truth. About Aiden Lee, oh, let me clarify. He's not my doctor or some pawn in a game. He saved me, not with wealth, but with his heart. He fought for me when no one else did, risked everything to pull me out of my darkest depths. I stand here because of him, and I love him for it. She paused, her eyes locking with Aiden's through the crowd, a silent challenge to all who doubted. So write what you will, but know this, Aiden Lee is the man who gave me life again, and I will not let that go. The room erupted in a cacophony of shouts, clicks, and gasps, but Aiden barely registered the tumult. Her words, like a tidal wave, washed away all the noise in his head. She stepped off the stage, her stride purposeful, ignoring the swirling chaos around her, and walked directly to him. Her gaze was unwavering, piercing through the confusion. Believe me now, she asked, her voice softer, yet laced with a challenging smile. He pulled her into an embrace, his arms encircling her as the world around them dimmed into insignificance. Yeah, he murmured into her hair, his voice thick with emotion. I do. She pressed closer, her hands resting on his chest, and in that moment, doubt was replaced by an unshakable certainty, their love louder than the cacophony of critics. Hand in hand, they exited the studio, leaving the city's roar behind like a distant murmur. The backlash would eventually fade, the gossip would weary, but they were committed to each other, to a life that soared above the noise. Unbreakable now. The air now carried the gentle scent of spring, of blossoming trees and the fresh earth beneath. In a quaint Brooklyn park, under a simple wooden arch, Aiden Lee stood, his hands nervously clasped before him. A year had passed since that pivotal press conference, and now, at 29, he wore a modest gray suit, sans tie, his glasses slightly fogged by the gentle breeze. Before him, Olivia Nyan advanced down a makeshift aisle strewn with wildflowers, her white dress flowing, soft and unpretentious. At 30, she glowed, her dark hair loose, no longer the emblem of the era she once represented, but simply a woman in love. The ceremony was small, intimate, with only 20 guests, mostly Aiden's med school comrades and a few steadfast colleagues from St. Augustine's. No cameras, no fanfare, just the rustle of leaves and the gentle, efficient voice of the officiant. They exchanged vows they had crafted themselves, Aiden's voice catching as he spoke, his words a testament to their journey, to the love that had grown stronger, louder, and more profound than any noise could ever hope to drown out. Amidst the tender moments of their love, Olivia and Aiden stood resolute, promising to weather storms and embrace the quiet, to build a life rich not in wealth, but in the essence of us. Their kiss, a silent symphony of approval, was met with a gentle applause, a heartfelt cheer for a love hard won. In the days following, they did not escape to some opulent honeymoon. Olivia had other grander plans. 2 weeks later, in the solitude of her penthouse office, Olivia, with a steady hand, signed away billions. Her fortune, once a fortress, now flowed into charities for education, healthcare, and sanctuaries for women. The tabloids screamed of insanity, but for her, it was liberation. She retained just enough for a comfortable existence, but the empire she had built was no longer her confinement. Aidan, watching with a hand on her shoulder, pride swelling within him, asked in a teasing tone, "You sure about this?" She looked up, her grin broad and unyielding. "Never been surer." They traded the grandeur of skyscrapers for the simplicity of a modest brownstone in Queens, where their backyard boasted a patchy lawn. Yet the real transformation began a month later when they inaugurated the Nanley Clinic, a humble brick structure nestled in an overlooked corner of the borough. This was Aidan's dream, a sanctuary where anyone, regardless of insurance or status, could receive care. Olivia, with her business acumen, turned this vision into reality. She managed the finances, he treated the patients, and together they breathed life into a forgotten street. The clinic thrummed with activity each day. Children with sniffles, elders with persistent pains, families experiencing medical care for the first time. Aidan moved among them, his white coat replaced by a hoodie, his laughter a balm as he tended to scrape knees or listened to labored breaths. Olivia, now at a desk out front, scheduled appointments, her once formidable boardroom presence now a beacon of compassion, engaging donors with a quiet intensity. Their old lives of steel and ambition had transformed into something far more profound, a testament to kindness. As the summer sun dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery canvas of orange and pink across the sky, Aidan and Olivia found themselves alone on the clinic's small porch. The last patient had left, the day's work done, and the city's distant hum was the only reminder of life beyond their little sanctuary. The clinic, a modest structure with its weathered brick and cracked sidewalk, stood as a silent witness to their journey. Aidan leaned against the railing, his arm casually brushing Olivia's. A cup of coffee, now forgotten, cooled in his hand. Olivia stood close, her hair catching the fading light, a scarf draped loosely around her neck. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for their next move. "Worth it?" Aidan's voice was a soft whisper, his eyes searching hers. Olivia turned, her gaze meeting his, filled with warmth and certainty. "Every second," she affirmed, her hand finding his, their fingers intertwining. His calloused hand, rough from years of hard work, contrasted with her softer touch. "We did this together," she added, her voice a tender echo of their shared resolve. Aidan squeezed her hand, a slow, heartfelt smile spreading across his face. "Yeah, we did." They stood there, hand in hand, watching as the sunset painted the world in gold. Behind them, the clinic was more than just a building. It was their promise, a beacon of all they had overcome. No coma, no betrayal, no whisper of scandal could diminish what they had built. They had cast off the shackles of wealth and doubt, creating something tangible, something real. The horizon stretched out, vast and endless. As the light waned, Aidan drew Olivia closer, her head resting against his chest. Love had guided them through every trial, and it would continue to lead them forward, unbroken, into whatever future awaited. The sun disappeared, leaving a gentle glow over the Ningley Clinic's porch, where Aidan and Olivia stood, their hands still clasped. The world they had constructed was not merely a place, it was a heartbeat, a testament to love's enduring power against chaos and greed. From a stormy night in the ER, their love had flourished, standing resilient and true. As the golden dusk enveloped their journey, Aidan and Olivia had spun a yarn of bravery, trust, and an unbreakable bond. Stars began to pierce the velvet sky, and with hearts full, they retreated inside, ready to embrace tomorrow with patience. Their love, a beacon that would eternally glow. If Aidan and Olivia's tale stirred your soul, if the defiance of a young doctor birthed a miracle, if a millionaire rediscovered her essence through his care, then don't let this be the end of your emotional voyage. Dive deeper into stories that tug at your heartstrings and reignite your faith in the miraculous. Join the Soul-Stirring Stories channel, where each narrative leaves you breathless, longing for more. Hit that subscribe button now and prepare for the next journey that will leave an indelible mark on your heart. Thank you for watching. Your engagement means the world to us. Please leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to keep the stories coming. Let's continue this journey together, one extraordinary tale at a time.